Okay, welcome to Western Tradition Learning Center. I'd like to do a series of videos on chemistry. And they'll be short for the most part, and they'll deal with certain topics. I mean, I could do longer ones, but I think I'll start with some short ones just to kind of give you the nitty-gritty about different topics. And they'll help you. Hopefully they'll help you in your class. They'll help you, with tests within the class, quizzes, midterms, finals, and maybe even a regent if you have that. So anyway, let's today talk about John Dalton. John Dalton, he came up with this revolutionary theory in the 1700s, and we call it the Dalton's atomic theory. And it's very interesting, actually. I find it very interesting. First of all, it's not written down here, but his theory states that the basic unit of matter is a tiny particle called an atom. So everything is made up of atoms, right? You, me, the dog, the cat, the house, the piece of metal, the piece of plastic, the piece of wood, the concrete, the rubber, whatever, anything. So everything that is of material form is made up of atoms. Very interesting. There was an ancient Greek philosophical school that said the same thing, interestingly enough. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then he said that elements, which of course is what you find on your periodic table, right? And we'll discuss the periodic table later. I'll do videos on that. But elements that are on the periodic table, like copper, silver, gold, neon, fluorine, these are all, well, first of all, they cannot be broken down. They're already in their most basic form, and they're made up of atoms. Okay, that's what Dalton says. So elements are made up of extremely small particles called atoms. Also, he said that atoms of a given element are identical in size, mass, and other properties. Okay, and then atoms of different elements differ in size, mass, and other properties. Now, what does this mean? He's saying that atoms of the same element are the same. So one silver atom is identical to another silver atom. One gold atom is identical to another gold atom. Okay, so every carbon atom is the same. Every silver atom is the same. Every gold atom is the same. Every tin atom is the same. Okay, every sodium atom is the same. Every potassium atom is the same. And that's interesting. Then he says that atoms of different elements are different. So a carbon atom would be different from a silver atom. A gold atom would be different from a tin atom. A copper atom would be different from a hydrogen atom, right? In size and mass and other properties as well. Now this makes complete sense. It says that atoms cannot be subdivided, created, or destroyed. Sometimes they'll say that atoms are indivisible. But that's not completely true because there are subparticles of the atom. They used to think that an atom was, this thing that had nothing else to it, right? It was just like this solid thing, almost like a billiard ball. But that's not true. There are smaller particles to it, which you know already, right? You know that already. Electrons, protons, neutrons. We'll talk about those later in another video. Then he says here that atoms of different elements combine in simple whole number ratios to form chemical compounds. Right. Elements are made up of atoms, and then those atoms, so say a silver atom can combine with a gold atom, and then that creates this thing called a compound, right? When two or more elements are chemically combined, they create a compound, and those elements are made up of atoms. So when those different atoms, silver, gold, let's just pretend and say, that it forms this this thing called a compound. Okay, he's just saying that atoms can come together and form compounds, which we know. And then he says, in chemical reactions, atoms are combined, separated, or rearranged. That's true. That if we have a chemical reaction between different atoms of different elements, and they come together to create what we call a compound, these atoms can combine, separate, or rearrange. All right? Which is very, very interesting. Although we now know that some of Dalton's theory was not correct, it laid the important groundwork for the current concept of the atom. Anyway, so that's his theory. Now, we know that matter is made up of atoms, but we know there's things called subatomic particles. So there's particles smaller than the atom. And we know that atoms can be divided, but we're not going to talk about that now. Just for your sake, just remember this theory and for your test, and I think that'll be just fine. And then we'll talk about the electron and the nucleus in a minute. I'm going to do that in another video. Okay, so have a great day, and see you next time.